Jeffrey, another face-to-face episode.
Yes, we're back.
We're back. Yeah, it's kind of cool to do it face-to-face.
It is.
Yeah. So, all right. So today, I'd love us to talk a bit about the exponential nature of what is going on right now in AI. It is moving faster than the speed of light. And we've been talking a bit about this, and you have an interesting perspective that I'd love to dive into. But one of the things I would love you to do is help us sort of break it down into a context that we can understand, sort of an analogy from the world. So maybe start there.
I will, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I got a couple analogies. The one that I like most recently, which I had Claude help me come up with.
Excellent.
Has to do with a pond and lily pads. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take you through the analogy first, and then I'll tell you how it relates to AI. So imagine you have like a big pond, like 5 acres, right? And, you know, it's perfectly clear, beautiful, good for swimming, everything else is good. And then one day a lily pad shows up, right? And that's fine. You see a lily pad, you're like, oh, I should get rid of that. But lily pads double every day.
Every day.
I don't know if that's true or not, but imagine for the analogy that it does. So the next day there's 2 lily pads. The day after that there's 4, 8, 16, whatever. So you see it when it's like 64 or 128 lily pads, and you're like, I really got to get to that. You know, maybe I'll get to it. I'll be back down here next Sunday. Yeah. Right. So you come back next Sunday. And, you know, this is now, you know, you see it and it's like there's a 16th of the 5 acres is kind of covered, right? And then you kind of go away for a while and you come back on day 30 and it's completely covered.
Wow.
And you're like, what happened? Mm-hmm. And then the question you ask yourself is, well, what day was it half full? And it was day 29.
Just the day before.
Just the day before.
Yeah.
And 2 days before, it was a quarter.
Yeah.
Right? So it just goes to show you, it starts out so slow. It's like it's invisible, right? You don't really notice it. It's 1, it's 2, it's 4, it's 8. You know, it's not a big deal, right? If you're not paying attention, though, it'll be day 29, and it's too late. Yeah. Right? Because you
can't stop it.
You can't stop it. And like, even if you could, you can't arrange to get it. You can't catch up. Yeah. And so the analogy I like to do is like the lily pads are like the AI competence and your competitors even, right? Yeah. Like if your competitors are engaging in AI, right? And they're learning more, and you're like, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, this quarter's busy. Next quarter, I'll start buckling down and get into it, right? Well, though, not only is your competitor themselves learning and doubling every day, maybe, but the technology is doing the same thing, right? So for you to catch up is easier now, right? Is impossible on day 29. So like you got to ask yourself, what day are we on with AI? And I guarantee you, it's not day 1. Yeah. It's not day 29, but it's you know, it won't getting towards there. It won't be long before it's day 29.
And I think that's such an interesting framing, and putting it also in the competitive context. On the drive here, when we were chatting with your buddy Mike, and he talked about being at an event where folks were sharing what are they doing with AI.
That's right.
And, they all did, and then one guy stood up and said, "I'm glad you're all doing that, because let me tell you what I'm doing. And I'm so far ahead of you all, keep doing what you're doing." And like the competitive stance that folks can have if they keep at the front edge of it rather than the back edge of it.
Yeah, and there's a couple things to note, I think, about that. One is that there is friction to adoption, right? So the capability, and I'm stealing this from Nate Jones, who I watch on YouTube because he's brilliant.
Nate B. Jones.
Nate B. Jones, yeah.
Follow.
You know, so there's the capability of the AI, which is incredible, and it goes really fast, right? But that's not necessarily the total impact on the world, right? Because the capability doesn't really have any impact. What has impact is when it gets deployed and then adopted, and then integrated, right? That's when you really have, and it becomes ubiquitous, right? Yeah. So, and different organizations, of course, can do those things at different rates. You know, government is extremely slow, like things like FDA and you know, HIPAA, all that stuff that needs to go through that regulation was extremely slow. So even if we had all kinds of capability today, it's tough. And the reason I bring this up is that there's a huge opportunity for people who can move fast, right? Because of this friction in other organizations, if you're nimble and you can move fast, you can stay ahead on that exponential curve. And you know, being ahead on a linear curve is great. You're a little bit above. Being ahead on an exponential curve is like world changing. So, you know, I keep saying, you know, now is the time to start. Actually, it's kind of like planting a tree, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Yeah. You know, it's time to plant your tree and get going.
And I think it's interesting too, in terms of thinking about it like concretely, and the ability to be able to light up AI agents to help you. And I listened to a couple of weeks ago to this podcast, The Economist, and it's called Boss Class. And the one woman was talking about basically, you know, creating a business from scratch. And she said, I am now the boss of these AI agents. And she said, you know, I had one for marketing, and I had one for the development, and one for the design, and one for like the financial planning and all of that. And she goes, all of a sudden I had 5 employees. And when you think about this with AI agents, you can go from having yourself to thousands of AI agents in a much shorter period of time. And all of a sudden, your footprint is huge. Your output is huge. And I think that power.
And there's no personality conflicts, and they don't take vacation, they don't get sick, and they work 24/7. And
yeah. And it's so interesting. And I think that's very much the exponential nature, is where can you put that power to work inside an organization? And I think if we sort of go to a bit of a call to action here in terms of how leaders should be thinking about this in organizations, your whole point around like start. We've been talking this entire series around be curious, get in, learn. Any other thoughts that you have for leaders to try to help their organizations catch up and not be at day 29?
You know, what really triggered for me was I tried really hard to think exponentially, like what if, right? So take a simple example, like, okay, I have to do this thing, whatever it is. And the more of this I do, the bigger my business grows, right? Well, when you have people, you know, let's say you have one person doing it today, and you're like, oh God, if I only had 5 people, I could be like 5 times the sales, right? Great. Well, okay, maybe you get up to 500 people doing that, right? And that's generally the linear thinking, right? Because we think people and resources. But what if you said, well, what if I had 5 million, right? And without hiring anybody. And that's the potential of that exponential curve. And it's also, and which I think is a whole other podcast as well, the whole concept of human in the loop. Get it today. We do it, we have to do it for 2 reasons. One is like it makes mistakes and it doesn't do, we have to learn how to guide it to go where we want it to go. We have to put guardrails on, make sure it's going that way. And the second thing is when you do that, it learns and you teach it how to get better and do what you want to do. But ultimately, to get exponential, you can't have a human in the loop. Can't, right? So if you're a leader, if you're a CEO, business owner, you know, head up some sort of initiative, start thinking like, what if there was essentially unlimited resource to do what you're doing, and what could you do? And if you can't think of that, think about what happens if your competitor does that instead. Right. Like now, you know, now you have bigger problems. So it's hard to think exponentially because we're just so not used to it. But that one, it's key. Yeah.
And that's where, you know, coming back to the examples where in history we have seen exponential growth, and this is just the next wave of how do you actually take something from an individual doing it to doing it in mass, right? And this is just the next wave of mass, and we've got to figure it out.
Yeah, and it's coming. And if you don't do it, your competitor is, just like the guy who stood up in the meeting and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. You guys keep doing what you're doing.
Right? So I think what we need to do is we all need to avoid being at day 29.
Think about what day you're at. And if you think you're anywhere close to day 29, you're in deep trouble.
Yeah.
If you're anywhere else, then get going.
Yeah. Good. All right. Onward.
Onward. Here we go.